We check in here on Yahoo Monday after UFC 127. A pretty interesting card. Kevin Iole is here with us to break it down, our lead writer on the MMA and boxing side. Kevin, what do you think in general of the Bisping-Rivera fight?
I didn't think much of Michael Bisping and Michael Bisping's actions, I'll tell you that. I've been a defender of Michael Bisping for a long time. I've said on many occasions he's actually a good guy, but I lost a lot of respect for Bisping in the way he handled Rivera's videos, the way he dealt with the fight, and the aftermath of it. Tremendous loss of respect for Michael Bisping.
So the press conference, he kind of flipped out. The weigh-in, he kind of flipped out. So is it easy just to assume that the knee was intentional? I don't think it was, but I mean, is that a fair assessment to make?
I personally think it was an intentional knee. I've looked at it over and over and over. I don't know how you can say it's not, given the circumstances, given what was going on. Bisping is a veteran fighter. He knows the rules. He knows what's going on. He's in control of himself. He's proven that in other emotional fights. And in this particular situation, he can't do it. And I think he was so over the top. This wasn't like Rivera was getting up. I mean, Rivera was down and wasn't even thinking of getting up, Steve. To me, it's 100% intentional. He was delivering payback for, and when the fight was over, I disagree. I don't know if it was Goldie or Joe Rogan made the comment. They said, "Oh, classy," when they were embracing. It was a half-hearted embrace, and Bisping was telling him off, and Bisping was still trying to get in his face, and to me, I think, he lost a lot of respect, and I think he's, whatever few fans he had, he's going to lose, and I think he's going to look at some discipline too.
The other part of his behavior, the spitting, he admitted he did spit. His excuse was that he spit in the direction or towards the floor of Rivera's buddy. What do you think of that?
Total classless, total juvenile act. I mean, come on. You know what? I can see Bisping being a little bit upset with Rivera's videos before, maybe even more than a little bit upset. But you know what? Spitting crosses the line. You don't do it. You beat the guy in the fight. You won the fight. You got the ultimate revenge. You don't spit. You don't be a pig. And that's what he was. I mean, that's just total lack of class.
Rivera came out afterwards, said he thought the knee was intentional, and said, "You know what, I put those videos together. I never mentioned anything about his family, so I don't know what he's talking about there." And he showed his true classlessness with the spitting.
Well, I'm going to disagree with Jorge a little bit here. I mean, I think Bisping showed a lack of class, no doubt about it. But, Jorge, with the whole thing about, 80% of all koalas in Australia have chlamydia, well, he clearly was referencing Michael's girlfriend, who was Australian. So come on, don't give me that. I mean, you talk the talk, you got to walk the walk and back it up. Bisping was right to be angry with that, but I mean, I think you got to take it for what it was. Rivera's to degree at the upper level, he's kind of on the outside looking in. He's trying to get himself, noticed, get some attention in the UFC. And, he did something that, I suspect the UFC helped him with, because that was too well produced, and I just can't see a guy on his own computer, a fighter with so many other things to do. To me, Steve, that looked like he had a lot of quality help. And so I have a feeling the UFC might have been involved. But whether they were or whether they weren't isn't the point. Rivera's a big boy, and he knew what he was saying. And when you say those kind of things, there's consequences for your actions. Now, you don't have to expect to get illegally kneed or punched in the face when the other fighter's not allowed to do it, and you don't expect that somebody is going to spit at your corner people, and Bisping's wrong for that.
The reaction online, on Twitter, right after the fight, last day and a half, has been really strong. I saw Keith Florian, Kenny's brother, said, hey, actually copied Dana White on Twitter and said, hey, this is worse than what Paul Daly did.
I don't know if it's worse, because Paul Daly hit a guy after the bell, and he could have really seriously injured him. In the Bisping fight, it was in the fight, and he can make the argument, which I think is a weak argument, but he can still make an argument that, hey, I didn't intentionally do it. Daly has no such argument, so I don't think it's worse. I think it's just as classless as what Paul Daly did. I think Bisping is going to face some serious sanctions in this, and he should. Should he get cut and be banned for life? I don't know about that. I mean, I think that's a nuclear penalty. That's pretty tough to do to anybody, but I do think Bisping should face some serious sanctions.
You quickly with Dana White, he's back in the U.S. What do you say?
He's not happy. I said, are you going to give Bisping, this was via text message, I didn't speak to Dana, just we traded text. I said, are you going to penalize Bisping for his actions? He said, he responded one word, yes. I responded back, money, question mark. He says, I don't know, but I'm really unhappy with him right now. Clearly Bisping is going to, if he gets a fine, if he gets a suspension, if he gets both, maybe they cut him. I don't know. But I think Bisping is going to, pay for that. I mean, you have to be in control of yourself, and he wasn't in control of himself both with the knee and with the spitting, and it clearly showed. I mean, this is a guy now that I think, what are other opponents going to do when they see him? They're going to taunt them even more mercilessly. They know what's going to go on, and Bisping's got to get used to it. But he's going to pay the piper somehow.
You mentioned cut him. Is that a possibility?
I wouldn't have thought it was a possibility with Paul Daly, but not only did Paul Daly get cut, it's one thing if you cut him because the UFC can always sign him back at some other point. But Dana White made the point after Paul Daly hit Josh Koscheck after bell, he will never fight in the UFC again. That is a huge, huge statement. What if Paul Daly would have become the number one welterweight in the world? Dana White was asked that question. No, I'm not bringing him back. He's not coming back. So we don't know what Dana's thinking for sure on this, other than he's going to dish out some penalty. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets cut. I think more likely is that he gets fined and gets made to apologize. I think kind of like with Frank Mir after his ill-advised comments regarding Brock Lesnar. I think we're going to see some sort of apology coming out from Michael Bisping because he did not do it the right way. His reaction. I go back to his reaction after the Matt Hamill fight, and the way he, acted at that post-fight press conference, was horrendous. And I don't think he covered himself in grace and class with the way he responded there. But people gave him a break. But I don't think he's going to get a break now. And I think, that the UFC needs to take some action. I'm not sure cutting him is the right thing, but I certainly think that, he needs to pay a stiff fine here.
If Bisping stays around, what could be next? I mean, I think an interesting matchup from the discipline standpoint, since the other guy's already in trouble. And, boy, talk about putting him to a test with the freaking trash talk and videos and reacting to all that before the fight. They're both contenders. Chael Sonnen against Mike Bisping, I think, would drive fans crazy.
Who do you root for in that fight? That's the thing you want to give the fans somebody to root for. But I mean, I think that would be a good fight for him. I think, I don't know that we really got to see a lot out of Bisping the other night. I mean, I think going into the fight, he was a big favorite. Should have beaten Jorge Rivera prior to the illegal knee. I think Bisping was winning the fight, but Rivera landed a couple good right hands, and to my way of looking at it, was in the fight. I don't think if you would have stopped it seconds before Bisping illegally kneed him, I don't think you can say that he was going to dominate him in the second round. I think it was still a fight. It was still up. Bisping clearly, was able to take him down almost at will. He took that one in particular, one big right hand, and he took it very well. So I think, likely Bisping would have won the fight, but, I don't think he proved conclusively that that he was going to do that. Now, once Jorge was kneed, totally different fight. I mean, I don't think he was the same guy, and it was just a matter of time until the finish. But I think if you want to put him against Chael Sonnen, I think it'd be a tough fight for Mike, to be honest with you. But I think it'd be an interesting fight. Now, it might be one that would, as you say, drive a lot of interest to the fight. But I think the UFC first is going to have to do some disciplinary work on Bisping before we even start thinking about what's up next.
All right, Kevin, we'll check in with you later in the week.
Thanks, Steve.